Sup, everybody? It's your boy L to the Z. It's another episode 36, which is episode part 2 of the Dissonant Rainbow, which is the name of the book. And we still have the author with us. Mercy, hi.
Hello, Wendy.
I don't know why I'm saying hi again, because she was with my co-host in the previous episode. I would like to ask you some questions since my co-host decided to ask the political ones. But I know you had a lot to say about it. Do you want to say who you want to vote for?
No, my vote is my secret.
Why do people feel that way? I still want to know.
I don't want to stigmatize myself with parties. That's none of. No, I don't want to, because I believe that if you start putting yourself out there as being very vocal and liberal about your party, your people are looking at you with the eyes of that. I look at you and I'm like, oh, you are AFM, if you are that AFM, and then I'm like, okay, and then I look at you. You know, all the ills, all the sins of that AFM, whatever, they're on you. No matter how good you are, you know. So I don't want any. You see, I'm building my brand, and I don't want associations, especially with the political parties. Sorry.
That's precisely why I have a problem with people who make a noise about voting, but still are not brave enough to say who they're voting for. If you want to vote, why can you not stand with your party? Because we all know every party is sinful, right?
You know.
So why don't you address the sins?
I'm gonna decide on the ballot paper. I don't know who to vote. Actually.
Because my co-host is also supposed to say who he's voting for.
Yeah.
But no one's brave enough to say it.
No, it's complicated. It's a complicated relationship that you don't want to get into, you know.
Unfortunately. But I still think it's something that we need to fix as South Africans, because the issue why I'm saying we need to be vocal about it is because we all need to be accountable for who we put in power.
Yeah.
And we've put ANC in power for how many years now?
25?
25 years.
25,
yeah, 25 years. And they've literally molested this country for 25 years.
We are so morose. We're so abused.
Exactly. And the reason being is because we allow them to lie to us every time it's elections.
Vote for change. What change?
Exactly. We don't hold them to any standard, because there's no standard in South Africa, because everything is okay.
Because there has become a thin line between the law and the party.
Yeah.
The government and the party. They're very, very, it's getting blurred by every term, you know.
Exactly.
So now you're finding that governance is ANC, law is ANC. We saw what happened with President Zuma. After whatever, I use names, sorry, but with the previous president,
I also use names.
You know, because there is no way that man should not be held accountable. But he's happily living in his Nkandla, you know, after having abused all the taxpayers' money, you know, abused power and sold our state, you know. So people are respecting the ANC. He's the president of the ANC, and so what? You know what you see in Sudan recently? They've imprisoned their president. You know, people are tired. It's the same thing that happened with the Burkina Faso president. The president after Sankara, the very close friend, and who's suspected to have organized the coup, the murdering of Sankara. You know.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that happened. People went to the streets, women with their wooden spoons and the pots, and they were saying enough, out, and he was exiled, you know. So we should, as South Africans, be that radical. We are very radical in terms of our freedom. I don't understand. I don't even know why we were the last ones in getting our independence in South Africa. I don't. Maybe there are many implications on that, but we were radical. We were tired. We got out there and we're like, okay. But is it because it's our people? Because we were saying no to whiteness, no to white people ruling us badly. But why can't we say no to our people?
That's exactly the problem. I think the biggest issue is that we are still, you know what they say about elephant, how they train elephants, is they tie it with a chain.
Yeah.
And then they'll tie it with the string, and it still won't move because it's so used to being chained.
Yeah.
Now, that's how
The
South
mentality,
Africa is actually, is because they still have that image of, yeah, as long as someone black is in power, we'll put up with whatever is happening. And it's a problem, actually, because now, when it's easier to point fingers if it was someone else, but when it's your own people,
you
that
just
is
try
like
to hide
screwing
and cover
you
it up and
over.
everything, And we are left because, for the opposition, especially the DA, they have everything to say. Because we're screwing up everything, almost everything.
Which is why they don't want to give back the land, because they're like,
Look
they've been in power for so long. What are they doing?
Happening? What have they done? They've bribed each other and given so and so land and not the other. So,
but there's a conversation that I want to get into, that I think would be like a major transition for this country, which is something you talked about today on your status. You were talking about education, even bringing libraries into churches.
When you get to that topic, there's a topic that I write under on my book. It's about how the church has to play a role into the transition, the whole role of the church in this whole transition. And I talk about the heavenly minded and earthly useless Christians. Christians have this perception of living in a bubble, praying in tongues and fasting and reading your Bible, quoting the Bible, blah, blah, blah. And you're not living life. When God had created us, I'm a Christian, I don't hide it. When God had created us, he said we should have what? Dominion.
Dominion over the earth.
What is dominion? It is leadership. It is taking control. It is authority. It is being responsible. It is everything. It is management. But you look at Christians of today and they're like, wow.
Yeah.
They don't even know. They don't care about current affairs. They will tell you about the world. But ask me, I laugh at this. How do you fantasize or be excited about the heaven you don't know when you can't live on earth? How do you thank the God you don't know and be glad and be rejoicing and everything when you can't thank the next person who has just saved your life or bought you food or paid for your transport? And the brother will be like, oh, praise God, I managed to get the money. Who gave you the money? You should acknowledge people. There's nothing bad. You're not putting a person above anything else. You're saying, thank you, brother, you helped me. So we have this floating idea of Jesus and God and the whole earth. You want to be living this separated life, this exclusive life that we are. Oh gosh, it just makes me, it's like leadership, responsibility, So when you have those kind of Christians who won't be caring about voting because it's earthly, I normally imagine things in my brain, and
there's
I'm
a
like,
lot of politics in the Bible,
and I'm like, the whole Bible is about leadership. The whole Bible is about transition. Israelites moving from Egypt to going to Canaan, they had to develop leadership structures within that. Now imagine South Africa coming from apartheid to democracy. The church should have been involved in the transition because part of the mess that we are in is because we Christians have taken a backseat in leadership. Yeah. We have taken a backseat in politics, So I imagine we Christians going back to God and he's asking us, so, Randy, what did you do with your life? I was living this holy life and I was separating my life from the world because I wanted to be holy in front of you. And God looks at a little foolish idiot. Like, it's like the talents that so-and-so this was given that. How many? The person who was given one hid because they were scared to live. Christians of today are scared to live life. Yeah. They are like this floating whatever. We don't want to be contaminated. Why can't we mature? Grow up and lead. People ask me, do you mind being in politics, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't mind being in politics. Oh, but it's too corrupt. I'm going to be incorruptible. Right there. And people are like, oh, no, you just don't get it. But when will we have Christians that are effective? Because the policies that are being passed that are against us as Christians, they are being passed because there's nobody to stand there and say no.
Yeah,
there's no one to rally against that, So we don't have to be so earthly useless. We can be heavenly minded, but let's start our heaven here. That's my ideology. But leave your heaven here. Take care of the animals, right? Take care of the plants. Be a responsible leader in your community. Leave heaven here. And then if you transition, whenever that happens, there should not be a gap between your life.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree with you. I think the church is very docile. It's not involved in anything, actually. Like, take it even outside of politics and just talk about just its own community. Like, there's a church, like, almost in every street now. Yet there are communities that have no food, that have no housing, but church buildings are getting bigger and bigger. And I'm so confused. They're so concerned about filling up the church, yet they're not willing to go out and go to people and change lives so the church can be filled with believers and not just have people just filling up seats, you know. And one thing that I've grown to understand is in every community here, they can tell you there's a church here, 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 and here. But if you ask them, what has the church done for you? None of them can testify, oh, this church has done this for me.
You know, as Professor Lumumba, my mentor, actually says it, that in Africa, churches have become markets. It's a marketing strategy. It's one of those. You know, the pastors, the shameless pastors of today are not afraid of sucking people. You know, they'll try to get money out of people any way they want. They can. Selling water and doing that. For me, a church that I respect is a church that is effective in the community. Exactly. Don't tell me your church is clean when down the street
it's not clean.
It's dirty. Yeah. You know, I appreciated there's a problem in Tata with boycotting of municipal workers, and sometimes the rubbish is just left. What happens here in East London sometimes? You know, all the churches came together. It was last year.
Yeah.
Was it last year or beginning of this year? But they came together and it was Operation Clean Mtata. After church, everyone changed overalls. They brought their cars, their buckets and everything, and they cleaned the town. That is the church we want to see. We want to see a church that comes together and goes to orphanage homes.
Yeah.
You know, a church that goes to hospitals, not the churches that we see now that healing people in hospitals in the garages. No, the real church is people going to the real hospitals. Because now it's about the pastors driving the most beautiful cars, wearing your lizard shiny clothes, you know, and doing all these things. But, you know, Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. That is leadership. When they looked for him, when they wanted to kill him, they said, we can't see him.
Because he looked like everyone else.
He looked like
exactly.
his followers.
That's why no one actually, most of the church leadership didn't believe that he was the son of God because he looked common.
He was a servant. He became a servant. And that is the leadership that the church is failing to live up to now.
Yeah.
Being the servant. You have to serve as a leader. A leader that cannot serve, to me, is not a leader. I have a problem with that kind of a leader.
I agree with you. There's this thing called MOH, Ministry of Helps, where people are there to serve. Like a pastor will tell you it's dirty there, but he cannot lift up a chair and move a chair. How do you expect me to clean it if you can't
it's
clean
Pharisees.
it? Whose church is it?
The Pharisees that the Bible talked about, that they're telling everyone to pick the burden, and they're not even lifting it with a finger.
Nothing.
So,
what do you think we can do as people who are part of the congregation to change this? Because obviously, me personally, I don't like to look at any leadership because if I look to a man, I'm going to hold you to a very high standard. And if you cannot meet that standard, I'm going to tell you to step aside. So I think we should be the ones to step up and actually do things. Like you said, you want to put libraries into churches. How do you think we can go about doing that?
Okay. If we're talking about the decolonization of the African mind, the church can never be left out because that's a huge entity in Africa. The church, like the religions, in fact, like Muslim and Christians, they have to play a huge part because, African people will go to a church or mosque to cry their sorrows out. That's how we have lived throughout history. Before the colonization in Africa, we didn't have a synthetic place of worship. Not that we were, how do they call it? We were not barbaric. The European history refers to the African cultures as barbaric, as unacceptable,
they came
ungodly,
here to clean us
heathens,
up,
all that. No, because an African worshipped God when they went to fetch water in the river. An African worshipped God in the drum beat. An African worshipped God when they're caring for their child, putting them at the back. An African praised God when they were harvesting in their fields. An African praised God in their conversation, in their sitting. We believe that God was everywhere. Ukamata was part of us. There was no separation of God by day, by hour, and by that.
Yeah.
He was omnipresent. That was our understanding.
Yeah.
It's our culture. We understood God as a God who's always there. When you started telling an African that you can go to church on a Sunday or you can go to a mosque on a Friday, that's the problem. That's where the problem started.
Yeah.
Because it separated our belief. Now I had to be like, okay, there's no God in the river. There's no God in tending my flock. There's no God in my
at
cooking.
Home.
There's no God at home. I have to look for God because now that's what Africa is doing. We're looking for God. We're looking for help. We're looking for resources. We're looking for everything. We are looking out from outside. For me, the church or the religion should sensitize Africans into looking inside. Look within you. What can you do to help your situation? What can you do? What can I do to help your situation? And I always say that a nation that does not read is an impoverished nation. A home that does not have a bookshelf or whatever book stored anyway, that's an impoverished home mentally. So we start from home. Have books, do a collection. A overrated statement I've heard during all this time I'm studying my book. I don't read much. I don't like reading, It's just, and for me, that's like, oh my God, you just grinned yourself.
It's funny, people will say they don't read, yet they spend their whole day on their phones
social media.
Reading on social media.
So for me, the ideology I'm coming with, I'm actually, it's a call that in our churches, let's have libraries. Do you know how much church people are willing to pay for everything and not willing to pay for some things? Now imagine if in every church we have a corner of a library. And by library, I'm not referring to Christian books, sorry. No, I'm not looking for that. I want a church in Africa to make sure that the congregants have access to their history, to read about the current affairs, to read about development, to read about self-sustainability, to read about economy, to read about many things.
Mental health
and everything. Because we are running slow in development because we do not read as Africa. I want to go to a mosque and find a bookshelf. Not really a bookshop, a library, if I may call it. I want to find those. I want to go to your home and find your library. That's where we will start educating ourselves.
Exactly.
Because Africa should educate Africa. We're not supposed to be looking for help from outside, So literacy is something very close to my heart. I read. People ask, how do you do it? Every day I wake up at around 5 a.m. It's my brain I'm used to it. I train myself. I spend 2 hours reading. Today I was finishing a book by Steve Vigo, I Write What I Like. And I took a very long time to read that book. I think I took more than 3 weeks. I don't normally do. Each week I read a book. So every month I read 4 to 5 books.
Jeez.
But with that book, I was like, Steve Vigo lived outside his time. He lived ahead of his time.
Yep.
So when you read that book, you see the life of a black person in South Africa, how badly we were treated, So imagine if each of us is doing that. You're reading whatever you're reading. Because I make sure that every month when I read, I read development books, politics, blah, blah, blah. But I make sure that I read a book on Africa, Africanism, because I'm instilling in myself this admiring of Africa. I'm unlearning the lies that we were taught. that Africa is dirty, there's nothing that's going to come out of Africa.
Yeah.
But I'm reading books that say Africa is this, the glory of Africa, reclamation and of the dignity of Africa. So someone needs to start reading.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because when I was reading your book, like, I was mesmerized actually about, when you think you know something and then you get hit with knowledge and then you're like, wow. Because I was reading in your book when they were describing us before. Yeah, the whole.
Actually, when it starts, it starts like a drama. That Africa is a steak. Oh, hey, over there, South Africa, it's still not taken. Oh, I want the gold, the diamond, blah, blah. It starts with because many people have asked me that, but is your book a novel or what? No, it's not a novel. But I'm just painting a picture to a reader that this is what Africa was on the Berlin table in 1884 in Germany when they were dividing it. So this is what they were just seeing. We were like animals, like monkeys that maybe they look very fit. Can you use them? Can you just...
Yeah, that angered me, that part.
Exactly, because when my reader starts reading, I want to trigger something into them so that when they read, they understand what I'm talking about. I want to trigger that anger that is like, wow, really? So I want you at the end to be like, when I'm saying that you should reclaim your dignity as an African, to understand where we're coming from,
Yeah. Because I remember when I was reading that part, when they say these people have too much time on their hands, they do their harvesting, they go hunting, and then they spend most of the time with each other.
Visiting, dancing.
And they're like, no, these people have too much time on their hands. Make sure we give them a lot of work. Make sure you bring some whips and what. Like, while I'm reading this, I'm like picturing this whole thing.
Exactly.
While it's happening. And I was so angry. I'm like,
Do you see? Can you imagine how angry I was when I was just coming up with the whole idea? Yeah. Because it was just playing in my mind. Because the other thing is that the history that we read as Africans, it's an orchestrated history. Remember, it's the powerful that make the history of the world. It's the Europeans that have dictated the history of almost everyone that they have colonized. They've wiped off everything. The indigenous Americans, it's the same. So,
even when they speak like of all these other countries that also were colonizing, and they're like, Germany took this part and this part and this part, and France did this, and I'm like,
exactly.
These guys are speaking it like it's a competition. Like, let's see who can
because
take
they
over
were
the
fighting
most
over
countries.
territories.
Yeah,
they were fighting.
I'm like,
and Africa was just this clueless, stuck continent kind of a thing. And how can we at this age, after so many centuries, continue to live like we're people without purpose?
Yeah.
What happened, but we have to move with times and tune into the dilemmas that are there, because what saddens my heart is that the Africans are decorating and flourishing in every part of the world. The African diaspora we're so educated, we are so skilled, we're so everything, but we're not here, we're not home.
That's true. Can I ask you a question? It's a personal question. Would you ever marry a white man?
Oh my God, that's tricky now.
There's a reason why I'm asking you this.
Personally, I would marry a black, white, blue, yellow, whatever person, as long as their mind is open.
Okay.
As long as they understand, as long as they don't have supremacy attached to them. I am marrying a human, not the skin color.
Yeah.
As I always say that I don't have a problem with white people. I don't at all. I would marry that white man as long as he understands the context.
Actually, you're the first black person that I've seen post about, racism and colonization and all that, and still have white people engage in it positively rather than negatively. Because when we do it, we get attacked. So I've seen that white people actually like you, and I don't know if we're doing it the wrong way. I don't know, but you seem to be getting white people's attention because they seem to support you in your endeavors.
in everything I post, I always get my facts right. If I'm going to quote years or whatever happened, for example, the colonial tax that is happening in the Francophone countries, in the former colonized countries by France, it's about 14 of them that are still paying about $500 billion to France. It's a colonial debt. That is a fact. It's there. There's literature. There's everything to support it. And when I talk about that, I want you to show me where it's a person who's going to come up and say it's not true. Because the president of France before Macron, he had acknowledged that France without Africa would be nothing. So if you're coming up with those facts, and also in South Africa with schools that don't want black children to rock their hair because it's untidy.
Yeah,
so
when
I come with that, I'm coming with all the facts. It's either you take it or you leave my timeline.
Because I remember
because I become very unapologetic. When I talk about black issues that affect us, I'm still unapologetic because I'm talking about facts, things that happen. So I think even some of them have inboxed me separately on the side and say, thank you for, you're really opening my mind into things I don't know. Remember, those people were indoctrinated when they were children.
Exactly.
It's not their choice. So we can't be just spitting them all the way. But sometimes we have to understand. And some of them had their fathers, their brothers, forced into being soldiers. As much as we black people have suffered in South Africa, there are white people who have suffered. That is reality. They did something they didn't want to do.
True.
They were taken away. They were ruined psychologically. They were caused to kill black people and all that. And some of them have written books to say that I did this and that and that, and I've been ruined. I don't have a family. My wife left me. Blah blah blah. So either way, all these sides were affected because they were white people who didn't want, who didn't support apartheid. You understand? So it's quite it's complicated, but I try to make people understand. But
yeah, I always tell guys around our age, it's like, you guys are privileged rather than your parents. You get to grow up around us. To them, they didn't grow up around us. They grew up there, and we were somewhere down there.
Yeah.
So to them, it's very hard to unlearn all that behavior in that short
period of time.
And the country didn't
take time
unlearn the damage that was done. It just said, okay, let's sweep it under the rug and move on. So I always tell them, it's your guys' duty to go home and talk to your parents about such things, because you are the ones that are around us. You're supposed to tell them, these people aren't bad. Here's where they are, and here's where they go wrong. But we still need to play our role because we are privileged as white people, and say, okay, let us speak on their behalf.
So yeah, that's what I talk about actually towards the end of my book when I'm concluding. Someone would never expect that I'm going to talk about forgiveness, but I do, because when we don't forgive the whole situation, we'll be regurgitating over and over. Our children will be regurgitating on apartheid. And you know what the political parties are doing now, especially the ANC, they are regurgitating and they're manipulating people with history. People who lack knowledge perish, because if you knew, you'd say, you know what, don't tell me about the past. Tell me about what you are doing to change the past. That's what we should be focusing on, and not saying, apartheid did this, white people did that, blah, blah, blah. You're using it
as
to your advantage.
Using it as a
which
crutch.
is very cruel. I find it very cruel, because you're holding people in one place and they're not moving anywhere. And so, so I talk about that. And I also talk about a national funeral. It's funny, I know, but it's laying to rest the ghost that has lived with us for 25 years after. Apartheid is a ghost. It's a subtle ghost that we live with. In the systems, economic system, in everything. Supremacy is there. Apartheid is there. Nothing has changed. But some things have changed, but in the deeper engraved systems, apartheid is still there. If I'm a black person and you're a white person, we're doing the same job, you still get more money than me.
Exactly.
Why? Apartheid is a ghost that we live with. So we need the nation to acknowledge the damage that was done by apartheid and to lay it to rest.
What's funny is actually white people actually don't ask themselves those questions. Like, they'll work with you and they'll be like, this guy is better than me every way possible. Yet I'm earning more money than him. Because I'm in a higher position than him. Why?
Luxury. Why should you? It's just like masculinity. That men don't want to leave their place of control. When you're talking about 50-50, You find men telling you that you'll never get married because you're questioning whose standards? Who said they should be like that? No. If you're saying, you know what, I'm not going to cook every day when I'm married because I'm a human being, I get tired. I'll bring in some takeaways and everything, and people are like, oh my God, like, you're a feminist.
You're bougie, whatever.
You're talking, yeah. So, so any place that is luxurious for a certain group of people, they'll do anything to keep it, no matter how bad or evil it is. So it's a matter of, it's not really about white people, it's about humanity. Humans are selfish, very selfish. They can do anything to keep their comfort, So, yeah.
That is true. I've always said this. A person would rather spend their time and energy killing you and destroying you for something they could spend time doing themselves. Because they'll hate you like for writing a book and be like, yeah, fast bash is better, blah, blah, blah. Like, you could have done it too if you wanted to. There's no reason for you to hate Mercy. Mercy just chose, I'm not going to live the way my parents lived because they had to work for us to even be able
make it to where we are.
To make it to where we are. So we're supposed to make it better for our next generation and not continue the tradition. But Mercy, it's been fun chatting to you. Hopefully we will have you again on the show. Is there anything you want to tell us that we haven't touched on regarding your book?
Oh, well, I'm just going to say that my book really affirms blackness, which is something we should look into. And some girls really get offended or take me like I'm a traitor when I'm saying, let's embrace our hair. That's one thing I love. We've been accustomed to defining beauty according to the Western standards. Beauty is lighter. Beauty is silky hair. Beauty is this and that nails.
Makeup
and all that, But beauty is embracing who we are, So I always say to ladies that, can you put that weave down? Can you rock your afro? If you can't do it, can you let your children be children? Can you let them twist the hair, plait it, play with it, go rock it, fro, and all that? So that is self-love. And can we stop using these skin lightening creams? That's an African problem. It's so sad. People turn green. They look like lizards. When they've turned black and whatever skin, it's damaging because they are removing the melanin and they're exposed to the sun rays. I've seen it in some parts of Africa, even here in South Africa. I was seeing a lady who has put the cream from head to toe. She has veins, green veins, even on her legs and her feet and all that. Let's embrace our Africanness. That's just what I want to say. I'm so pro-Africa. I'm just all about Africa.
Ada, I'm thinking we really need to do Blueprint Sessions Live. She needs to be there. And we need to address these things, man, especially when we do this schools thing. Because we need to talk to girls, like, to be happy with who they are, true beauty. Okay, because we've had females here on the podcast before, and they were talking about how bad they're addicted to makeup and the weaves and all that. Like, to simply have like a video call. If we're dating, right, and I call you like video call, you have to first
run to pick the
put
weave.
on makeup and weave. No. I'm like, that.
That's not life. To me, that's not life.
That's not life.
If we're dating, I'm still gonna be waking up and calling you if I want.
Exactly.
Love me for me.
Thank you.
There's no way, because anyway, the person is still gonna see you without makeup.
Exactly.
Anyway,
that's what I.
The first thing that I do when I've put on makeup and left and blah blah blah, to show that I'm not really doing this for me. Sometimes the first thing I do, I take off my earrings. I wash my makeup off. First thing that I do. I want to be cool, relaxed. So why not share that side of me with the person I love? Why should I go all out? No, not that I'm saying I shouldn't be presentable and taking care of myself as a lady, but there's some limits to it.
Yeah.
So
to the point where you're not recognizable anymore.
Yeah.
Your book launch?
Oh yeah, my book launch is on the 25th of May. It's at Mthatha, 898 Arrow Spring Avenue, Southern Wood. That's where it's going to be at a Rock Village. So the tickets are 300 rands. It's for someone who doesn't have a book. The tickets and the other one is 80 rands. That's for someone who already has a book. once you go to the launch.
People like us.
Yes. So you'll find the ticket at the Christian Bookshop. It's close to Jumbo at Gaps Mall. And you'll also find it at the Sparks that is on your Roberts to Kwezi.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where you find the tickets. And come on, come all. And the theme for my book launch is An African Child. It's on Africa Day, 25th of May. So we are going to be dressed all beautiful with a touch of African, smart casual. And my DJ is so happy. He can't wait to play the African stuff and all that. So it's going to be such a cozy night, celebrating Africanness, celebrating a book that has been written by an African for Africans, So, yeah.
We're going right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I need to find African gear.
Don't tell me you don't have it because I'm going to be offended.
No, I have, but I don't know where it is.
Find it.
Because I wear my logo now every time, so I don't wear the majority of my clothes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to find mine. Yeah. Your handles?
Okay, so on Facebook, I'm Hombakazi Mercy Nqandeka, and on Instagram, I'm Nkosazana_H. And on Twitter, I'm Hombakazi Mercy Nqandeka again.
Oh, sweet. Before we close off the show, I just want to say this is an awesome book. I've been reading this book. I'm not done with it yet, but I can tell you, just from what I've read, this is a mind-blowing book. And what's amazing about it is I actually know the author. Okay? And you've watched the whole episode until this far. You can tell she's a pretty cool person. Okay? And she's all African, which is super awesome. Okay? So support her, get a book. It's 220 Rand.
Yes.
And hopefully she can sign it for you if she
I always
is
sign the
in
book
town.
and give it to my client with a hug, always.
See? And today I'm getting my picture finally, okay? Because she did sign my book, but I didn't get a picture, but I am going to get a picture. Anyways, I am L-Zee Britain's Finest on all platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And we are Blueprint Sessions on all platforms, including YouTube and SoundCloud. So subscribe and follow. You know what it is. Peace.